What's up, guys? I got a question for you. Are big investors buying too many homes? So, in this episode, guys, we're going to talk about the rise of corporate and institutional ownership in today's real estate market. And I'm excited about this topic because I feel like this has truly influenced our market, the real estate market, that is. And we want to talk about it. And in this episode, we're going to go in more detail. What's up, guys? Teach Me Tuesday. Here we go.
Let's go. I love this topic, guys. I mean, big investors, are they buying up too many homes, right? I don't know about you there in Orangeburg, but I can tell you what I've definitely been seeing here in Charleston. So
Mm,
lately, we've been seeing a lot of properties listed by Americans, homes for rent. We've been seeing like Open Door listing a
Hmm.
lot of homes and things like that, and not like your typical real estate agent. So when I see things like that, that is definitely telling me that something's changing. There's definitely a shift. So I know when we did some research, we saw that back in 2020, between 2020 2024, a lot of companies like American Homes for Rent and like BlackRock, Invitation Homes, they're pretty popular out West Coast and in the Atlantic area. They have been buying a lot of properties for cash. And sometimes, and I don't know, we can definitely talk about this one, like how it is in the Orangeburg market, but do you see a lot of first time home buyers competing with these investor type companies?
well, yeah. Well, so let me say this: in the Orangeburg market, it's not that prevalent. So I will say that. Now, when I'm selling homes and helping buyers buy homes in Columbia or even
Mhm.
Charleston, I do see that more, frequently, where companies are buying these big, you know, plots of land, and also they're buying a lot of homes and using cash, and buyers are competing with cash offers, and that's really an unfair advantage for the buyer, unfair situation for the buyer, because like they got to really deal with all cash, sometimes no appraisal, um, and even sometimes above as price, offer, so which is pretty tough
Yeah. I
to
can
compete
only
with.
imagine that honestly it reminds me,
Hmm.
like I know how the market was like back in the COVID days, right? During COVID, I mean, it was like bananas. Like people were, bidding on houses sight unseen. Those investors was coming in with cash offers, or people from the West Coast was coming in with cash offers, and the average first time home buyer didn't have a chance. If they was only pre-approved for their max, like they couldn't compete with someone coming in trying to offer a little bit more and paying cash. I mean, Gavin, can you speak to the, I guess from a seller standpoint for a little bit, if you was on the other end, if you had a cash offer in hand versus somebody got to go through financing? I mean, what was your experience like? I guess I ask it that way.
Yeah, I mean, just think of it this way. So somebody already has the money. If you already have money in hand, as opposed to having to, go through a process of, where someone is trying to purchase something and they have to get financing. There's so many things that can happen. Financing can fall through. You may not
Hmm.
qualify for the loan, or you may not. There's going to be time constraints where it may take longer, and you may need, a cash bar can. If they're buying in cash, guess what? That process that's going to be a whole lot quicker. They're gonna close quicker. Um, you may even be able to mitigate certain costs or fees, because you're not utilizing, um, so many, like, the different people that are involved in the process where it comes to financing.
Yeah.
um, and you're able to pretty much buy something as is, because when you're financing, the a lender is gonna, or whoever's loaning that money or whatever program you're going through, they are going to want to know certain requirements have to be met. But someone who's bringing in cash, it's really just up to them. Hey, I'm fine with how it is as is. I don't care about this the floor being uneven. I know how to fix that. So I'm fine
Yeah,
with,
so let me
paying that.
let me ask another question to you, Wilmot, because I know that you work with a lot of investors and you also work with sellers and things like that too. I mean, so like on your side of it, I guess you're kind of like, and you work with buyers, so you work with them all.
Right.
So to me, right, when you're in the situation as an advisor, to your clients, and of course, when you got someone that got a cash offer, I mean, from your experience, have you seen your seller or your investor like, yeah, I'm going to take the cash offer over the first time home buyer that maybe, got to get financing?
Oh man, I'm gonna tell you something. Now, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. I, my sellers are about. I'm gonna be honest. Like my sellers, majority of my sellers are all about the dollar, right? They, I love when the buyer sends a letter, right? Hey, this is my family. We moved down here from such. It's great. My sellers, a lot of times, my sellers ask me, "Well, what does the net sheet say, right?
Mhm.
What will I clear on this property?" All right, and then also a lot of times with those investors, they'll say as is, you know.
Mhm.
So it's like shoot, all cash offer as is. I don't have to do no repairs. They're gonna lean towards that, right? Because it's
Even if the
it's
offer is a little lower, because sometimes some cash offers are a little lower, right?
right, right. They yeah. Even if it's a little lower, because it's cash. They don't have to deal with appraisal.
Mhm.
Like sometimes appraisals come back with contingencies, right?
Mhm.
Like what if oh they got this FHA loan or USDA loan compared to this cash offer where shoot, it can have a leak in the roof, it can have some things going on with the house that normally your FHA loan or your USDA loan won't approve of, that would have to be rectified before closing. Where someone comes with an all cash offer with that's under the asking price, and they're like, man, you know what? I'm gonna just take the cash and be done in a quicker time frame. That's another
Mhm.
thing, right? So you talk about 30-day, 45-day close compared to a 2-week close. Soon
You
as
got a
title
point
work is
there.
done and
Right.
inspections. So it's just a lot of you know
Uh,
benefits.
I mean, it makes sense. I guess if you take the emotion out of it, if you take
Mm.
the feeling out of it, and if it's all about the almighty dollar, okay, it makes sense, right? It makes
Dude,
sense. So
yeah,
as
I
we
know.
know that here, definitely in South Carolina, the fastest growing markers for investors are Charleston, Greenville, and Columbia and Myrtle Beach, which I think all of us are definitely seeing the growth there. I feel like a
Mhm.
lot of people, especially from Charleston, are migrating to the Columbia market because the prices are night and day. Myrtle Beach is a little bit more affordable than the beaches near Charleston, so that is becoming highly saturated. You're also seeing even here in Charleston around our beach areas and things like that is definitely becoming a lot more saturated. And so it's harder, right? It's harder to really let a first time home buyer thrive when you have those fast growing pace of a market like that, right? So it looks like we do have a question from Brian, so let's see, can we answer it? So he's asking, are as is deals more prevalent in today's market? That is a great question. What do y'all think? Do you think as is more prevalent? I think it depends on who's buying, right? I think that's how I would answer that question. For a very first time home buyer who doesn't have as much money, if they're on that side of the coin, it's going to be very difficult for them to buy an as is property that's not more together and turnkey. Versus if it's an investor, you know what I mean, that's wanting to buy the property, they may not mind buying it as is because they may have the capital to fix it up. I don't know, guys. What are y'all seeing?
Yeah, I was gonna jump in. I think in today's market, where we are now with how it's kind of pretty much a buyer's market right now. Um, and because inventory is higher than we've had here when as is was at the kind of the height of its peak. Um, I think it because buyers have more options. Well, they can go with the home that someone has already made certain repairs to or upgrades to, and then also the battle with new construction where they are now building new constructions homes at a competitive price with pre-existing, to where you can possibly get a brand new home at the same price that someone's trying to sell an as is property for. So if there's not a benefit cost wise to where you're coming in under market trying to sell an as is property, I think right now there are too many options for buyers to just
Mm,
settle for that.
yeah, that's good. What do you think, Wilmot?
Yeah, I totally agree with Gavin. If it was a seller's market, as is would be more prevalent,
Mm-hmm.
more frequent out there. Um, but because because it's a buyer's market right now, and sellers are trying to be more competitive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I haven't taught my sellers about. I say, hey, you can say as is, guys, but you know, um, the thing about it is, if your home is competing with some other homes in the area,
Good
it
point.
it might not hurt to be able to do something. You see what I'm saying, to make your house more appealing
Right.
to that buyer that's out there that's on the fence between your home and the other home. Okay,
That's so true.
because yeah, so it's just one of those things, and there's a caveat there. So unless you're competing, right? Let's say there's multiple offer situation. All right, as is might be more attractive for a seller, from a seller standpoint, or even from a buyer to offer that. Say, hey, if we buy it, we're not going to ask for no repairs, okay?
Because they want to win the deal.
Because they want to win the house. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
Mm-hmm.
They don't want a buyer that's going to ask for the whole inspection report to be
yeah.
done. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? So, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
good point. Good point. So before we wrap up, let's shift gears just slightly. And let's talk about the ripple effect of what's happening when these investors are coming in and buying up too many of the homes. Right. What ends up happening is that rental growth is going up because you
Mm-hmm.
have these corporate landlords that are converting the homes. So they're getting long term renters in those properties, and that keeps the rental rate higher versus a private landlord typically would kind of work with you a little more. They may not up the prices as much, but in order to stay competitive, if you got these investors that comes in and has this corporate rent, then they're kind of jacking up the price. And so now you have these high price rentals as well. And so now people are like, oh my gosh, my rent is increasing. So it kind of slightly moves them to like, I need to do something else. Either I need to move to another rental or maybe I should really look into buying. Have y'all seen that as an effect as well?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that definitely rent. That's why people are running from the rent per se, um,
Running from the rent.
and looking towards home ownership to find a means of stabilization, so that they don't consistently have to worry about living increase in regards to their rent and their problems. We'll see. Brian said, "Promise how if all has the government shutdown affected the housing market in South Carolina?" Brian, I mean that's a great question. I think we're how many days we are into the shutdown so far? Almost a month. I think close to a month. I
Mhm.
don't think we've seen an immediate impact, because honestly, nothing has changed from a lending standpoint.
I
Home,
would say slightly,
well, slightly.
slightly. So slightly. So there hasn't been like an effect where people can't buy a house. There hasn't
Hmm.
been an effect where it has brought things to kind of like a standstill in our industry. However, we have had to adjust some things. Like I know Fannie and Freddie put out special guidelines for government employees who are furloughed right now. So we still can offer them a loan. We just got to get some additional documentation to do so. But what we may may have seen with getting like IRS tax transcripts and things like that. We become a little bit more lenient in collecting some documentation because the government is shut down in that way, but we still can do the loan. So it's something that we will kind of condition for later once the government does reopen. So it kind of had a little bit of an impact, but it hasn't like completely shut off business. I guess I would say it's the proper way to answer that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's a great question, Brian.
I'm just going to add my 2 cents. I haven't noticed any changes on my side because, I guess my worry was, would it affect, some of these loans that they might be getting, like your FHA, USDA loans or what. So, SC housing, down payment assistance. I didn't know if it would affect those items or those products. So, but as far as like buyers buying and sellers selling, I haven't seen any change since the shutdown. So, yeah.
But before we close out real quick, I did want to touch back on the whole ripple effect on community. The one thing that we don't really focus or we don't know that's happening, like the neighborhood turnovers. Like I know when we grew up, man, we had a neighborhood feel if you lived in a neighborhood or you knew your neighbors and things of that sort. But with all these investors coming in buying up, it's a lot more turnover. You're getting because renters are only staying a year or 2 years or whatever, and they're gone. So when it comes to community engagement and like the stability of schools and the kind of cohesion of neighborhoods themselves, it really doesn't exist anymore because you have fewer owner occupants, people who are invested in their communities because this is where they are long term, as opposed to people who are coming in renting for a while who may not, who aren't as invested in what's going on around them. So yeah, you see, a lot of neighborhood turnover and just that good neighborhood feel kind of fading away.
Yeah, good. All right, so sorry, one last point, because I did see this. I saw this on the news, and this brings us to our last point here today as well. Is the equity gap, right? So the equity gap is also decreasing as well, and so there was a article that came out earlier this week that I saw on the news where they said that South Carolina, there has been over 30% of like fallout in transactions, and equity has been decreasing in this area as well. Because I'm thinking, and Wilmar, you probably can speak to this, houses has been sitting on the market a lot longer, so people has to reduce the price as well, which then is lessening equity, is lessening home values as well, and so they have been decreasing a lot in 2025, by 30% than other previous years where they've been kind of steadily either staying the same or increasing.
Yeah. I think that's that economics right there. I mean, now that I think about it, I think it's affecting a lot of agents as well. I notice with these companies that are, they have their agents that they send out to put in offers on properties, right? And these agents, they're eating good, right? You know what I'm saying? When they get the deal and make the deal happen. But there's a lot of agents out there, they missed out on a lot of deals because of these big companies. That's out there, and then they're also using your discount brokers like Open Door. Not gonna go there on here, but yeah, I just think it's a lot of ripple effects throughout the industry, and agents are being affected as well, not just buyers and sellers. So yeah.
Yeah, man. Good stuff. Well, guys, that's our time for today. We definitely appreciate you guys tuning in to another episode of Teach Me Tuesday. As always, you can catch us here next week as well, every Tuesday, providing you guys with information regarding all things mortgage and real estate. So we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Just want to say I was a no limit soldier before I was a cash money millionaire.